Hey guys, welcome back to Mo's Game Table. Today we're going to take a look inside Twilight 2000, role-playing in the World War III that never was. This is the 4th edition of the game that was originally designed in 1984, and it is published by Free League Publishing, who's also done the Aliens RPG, which I've covered on the channel also. This is the Kickstarter box set, which I got in, and also Kev did as well. He's been showing some stuff on his site and talking about it online, and we've been kind of talking back and forth a little bit about maybe getting something going, either some one-offs or maybe a full campaign, and we're working on doing something like that. Maybe we'll get some live streams or recordings of that going on in the future. And we've also got Nate now to get a copy of the box set as well. So the whole Whiskey Charlie crew will be out there in the wasteland here in the future. So let's take a look at the back of the box and see what this game's all about. A classic role-playing game returns. This new retro-apocalyptic edition of Twilight 2000 goes back to the roots of the franchise with open-world role-playing in the devastation of World War III. Just like the original 1984 edition, this new game is set in a year 2000 devastated by war, now in an alternate timeline where the Soviet Union never collapsed. Twilight 2000 is a role-playing game about survival in mankind's most desperate hour. Yet in this bleak world, there is still hope. In the midst of utter destruction, you can start to build something new. Rally people to your ranks, stake a claim and protect it, and maybe, if you live long enough, start turning the tide. This box set contains a 152-page player's manual, a 112-page referee's manual, a huge double-sided full-color travel map, 15 engraved custom dice, 16 modular battle maps, 108 cardboard tokens for fighters, vehicles, conditions, and more, 4 battle maps for specific scenario sites, 52 encounter cards, 10 initiative cards, and 5 blank character sheets ready to be filled in. And you can see an example of the components in the picture there. So let's take a look inside and see what we get. All right, we have our deck of cards, custom dice, looks like a couple of scenarios, the referee's manual, the player's manual, character sheets. Let's just dump it all out at once because this is a pretty tight-fitting box. Got the individual maps that you'll be using, sheet of counters, another map, and this is going to be the travel map. So let's set up the maps and take a closer look at the game. Now we'll take a look at the maps that come to the game, starting off with the big travel map. On the front here we have Poland, and it looks just like a regular standard hex encounter war game map. You've got all your hexes, and you've got all the different types of terrain features on the map. We have roads, open, woods, hills, mountains, lakes and rivers, swamps, ruins. A lot of stuff on this map. You also will see a lot of names, not only the big cities, but the small towns in between. And that's where it is different than a hex encounter war game map, because this is a RPG. You need to move from location to location, and you need to know specifically where you're at, because that will dictate the encounters you have along the way. So while it looks like it could be a hex encounter map, it is definitely for an RPG, and it is beautifully done. I'll tell you what, Free League Publishing does an amazing job. Their quality is top-notch. On the reverse side of the map, we have Sweden, with Norway bordering up to the left, and it is just like we saw with the Poland map. It is a beautifully done map. Love the look of this map, the art palette, everything is great. Same with the map terrain. You have the legend at the bottom. We have roads, open woods, hills, mountains, lakes and rivers, swamps, and ruins. So no difference in the terrain features on the map. You're going to have the same type of terrain across the landscape, but beautifully done map. Then we get 4 battle maps that are for specific scenarios. Here are the fronts of both of them. These are 2 separate maps. I'm just putting them side by side so you can see. Hex encounter style map, because you're going to be moving around just like you do in a war game. And there's also going to be obviously the RPG element. So this is why this is a big attraction for wargamers, because while it is an RPG, it does have wargame sensibilities. It does feel and play like a wargame in a lot of ways. So this is the front of the maps, and we'll take a look at the back. And here are the other 2 specific maps. We have a destroyed area here, a lot of ruins, and a very built-up area. I like the contrast between the two of them. This could either be an apartment or a business complex. Not sure what it is. We'll find out when we get to the scenario, but love the contrast between this really pristine built-up area and a destroyed area on the other map. Then we have 16 more. These are 8 double-sided maps, and you'll have different terrain and different features on either side, and you can just set them up side by side, lengthwise, however, to create the scenario that you're creating. I just wanted to put down a couple of them here so you can see what they look like side by side. And you can see the terrain features on them. Beautifully done maps. Like I said, Free League does a great job with their maps, with their art in the books, as well as the content inside. So we'll just kind of flip through these and see the different types of maps that you get. And remember, the hex encounter style map, you got hex overlay here because it is an RPG, but it definitely has wargame elements and will be a big hit with wargamers, which it has been for many years. Another built-up area, like we saw, a little more destruction there. And that same type of built-up area, very destroyed here, even more so on the back. And then looks like a little village here. And then that is the last of the 16 battle maps. And here's a look at the counter sheet that comes with the game. Nice thick chipboard. You've got your different types of infantry here. You've got vehicles. Then you have your administrative counters down at the bottom. And here's a look at the character sheet that comes with the game. Pretty much your standard character sheet you see with a lot of RPGs. However, the layout I really dig. It looks like part of your SRB. You can see a little paper clip at the top, so it does give it some personality. You have an area for the branch, military rank, your buddy, your name, your appearance, your moral code, your big dream, and then how you met the group, as well as the experience that you have at the bottom right. Then we have attributes and skills, breaking down all of those that you have: strength, heavy weapons, agility, survival, tech, empathy, so on and so forth. Then we have the combat area, which is where you're going to track your damage, stress, your armor, your conditions, hit capacity, and then radiation for temporary and permanent, the damage you get for radiation. Then you have an area for gear, and then your area for tracking your weapons. And we'll take a look at a few of the cards from the encounter deck. This is going to be used by the referee, so this is not used by the player, but this gives you different encounters that you'll have along the way, and how sometimes something simple can become really, really deadly, especially in a dangerous world like you're living in here in the post-apocalyptic world. This first card here says Booby Trap Vehicle. It says the factions are marauders, and what the event is you have deserted pickup truck. If the players investigate, ambushing marauders detonate a hidden charge and open fire. They have hunting rifles and 1 RPG-16. 1 reload each, D6 rations of wild food. The truck is permanently destroyed, but spare parts can be scavenged from it. Then we have Pack of Wolves, Forest Fire, Viper's Nest. Viper's Nest is the burnt out derelict bus. The wreck is beyond repair, but the players can scavenge parts from it. There is plenty of scrap around, and any roll to scrounge in the area gets a +2 bonus. A Viper has made its nest inside the bus and will attack any player who enters it. This counts as an ambush. So simple things like scavenging parts are very deadly in this game. And I'm not going to go through all the cards because obviously this is something you need to experience on your own by the referee drawing them and letting you see what happens here. But wanted to give you an idea of the different types of hazards you'll face out there in the wasteland of Twilight 2000. Next, we'll take a look at the 2 settings that come with the game. We have the Polish setting and then the Swedish setting. And here on the Polish one, it gives you a breakdown of the situation between NATO and the Warsaw Pact, listing out all the forces that are involved in the combat. And then on the inside, you have friendly forces, civil terrain considerations, your mission, execution, service and support, and then the command and signal with a breakdown of on the map itself where all the forces are, where the combat is happening, so on and so forth. But on the back, this is where everything breaks down. Afterwards, you have the situation. It has been 1 week since the beginning of Operation Reset. Enemy strength has been higher than expected, with predicted reductions to enemy unit capabilities not in evidence during the operation. Our movement to Red Diamond was uneventful. However, the assault on Lodz did not go as planned, and we are currently in Calais after 12-hour fighting retrograde movement from Lodz. And it gives you the breakdown of the intelligence, the operations, logistics, communication, personnel, and then the course of action. So this is what sets the tone. After this operation, this is where you are now in Poland trying to get to Germany. Then we have the same for the Marines in Sweden. You have your breakdown of your forces and the overall map situation, as well as the combat situation of the operation. Then on the back, it is the same thing. We get down to the bottom, it says course of action. I've decided that survival of the regiment is more important than wasting our meager strength on a feeble attempt to break through enemy lines, to reach an objective that is no longer relevant or possible. I have given the order to move back to Division HQ to reorganize and refit, assuming the rest of the division is still in any way intact. Many of the civilians we have liberated, along with some of the Swedish soldiers who remained when the tanks rolled out, wish to remain with us for their own safety. We are bringing them with us as far as they want to go. They will also assist us in finding our way back through the Swedish forests and with translation and scouting. Units subordinate to the 2nd Marine Regiment will operate independently from now on in their efforts to return to the division. I have communicated with the units we could reach to let them know that we are on our own. So just like we saw with the Army one, this sets the tone. These are the breakdowns of Operation Reset and then the after effects. So just a little bit of backstory if you'd like to read about it, and then maybe even some hints in here telling you where the major fighting is if you're trying to look for vehicles or parts, ammunition, weapons, things like that. But also, like anything else, going to those locations, they may be rich in rewards, but there's going to be a higher level of risk. Next, we'll take a look at the player's manual. This is a 152-page full-color book. Here we have the table of contents, breaks down all the chapters for you. You're on your own, giving you a background of the situation. Then you have the player characters, skills and specialties, combat and damage, weapons, vehicles and gear, and then travel. Those are the 6 main chapters in the game. And we start off here with You're on Your Own. And one of the things I always say about Free League Publishing is I love their art style. It really does depict the environment that you're in very, very well. It's very evocative. And we've got, it looks like a soldier here and a civilian as they look at a burned out Hulk and then a destroyed farm. So it really does draw you in. And here we've got the bleak look of the survivors as they're making their way through the environment you're in. And the same here for the rocky, snowy landscape with the M113. And it's just telling you what to do in the game here. What do you do? Stay alive, help those in need, search for information, find a safe haven, stake a claim, find a way home, reset the world. That's the point of the game. It is a game that is set around just having hope, trying to rebuild things. And it is going to be a difficult setting. Now, of course, it all depends on your game master, your referee, and the players you're playing with, and what your overall goal is. Do you want to play a one-off? Do you want to play a campaign? Or do you want to have a series of campaigns that you can play for years as you try to rebuild things, which I think is pretty cool. Then we have the game setting, Poland, Sweden, and then there are other settings. And it says here the referee's manual also briefly outlines the current situation in other regions like the United States, the United Kingdom, Germany, and the rest of the world, should you want to set your campaign elsewhere. You can use the material in Poland and Sweden as inspiration for your own setting. Most of the scenario material in this book, such as random encounters and scenario sites, can be used in any setting with only minor tweaks. So it is a very open world. This is definitely a sandbox. While you have the settings for Poland and Sweden, you can very easily translate them to other locations. Campaign frameworks, civilians, law enforcement, prisoners in a mixed group, starting the game, the tools of the game, your character sheets, dice, and then explains to you what is a role-playing game. Then we have the player characters. This is where we get into the meat of the game. When you create your character, the different branches, nationalities, ranks, attributes, hit and stress capacity, your skills, specialties, coolness under fire, unit morale code, big dream, your buddy. Remember, we saw the character sheet. You see all those things listed out. Let's look at big dream, for example. It says, big dream, your immediate goal in the game is to live another day. But in the long run, merely surviving is not enough. You also have a motivation of your own. Something you dream will one day come to pass that keeps you on your feet when it would be easier just to lay down and die. During play, you will gain extra XP if you take concrete action to realize your big dream. The referee has final say. So that's like an added incentive where you can gain extra XP during your scenarios if you follow your big dream. And that continues out the rest of the character creation. You have different archetypes, and then an example of the sheet itself, the civilian, the grunt, the gunner, the kid, all the different style of characters you can play, the mechanic, the medic, the officer, the operator, the spook, and then the life paths for the character generation. Quite a bit for character generation to really give your character a lot of character. I think that's pretty neat. And then developing your character, and then we get to skills and specialties. This breaks down how you get your different skills and specialties, rolling your dice, and how to apply those rolls for the different skills and specialties. Range combat, your stamina specialties, driving, mobility, range combat specialties, recon, survival, tech, persuasion, medical, command, all different types of specialties. You can really customize your characters quite a bit. Then we get into the combat portion of the game, which here under combat and damage. Battle maps, rounds and initiative, slow and fast actions, and the listing of the slow and the fast actions, your terrain and hexes, the hex features, foot movement, cover, barriers. We've got an example here. The blue fighter has partial cover in a forest hex. The cover is effective against the red fighter in 01. Against red fighter 01, but not against red fighter 02. So a little example of the cover there, line of sight, I guess you could say. Weather and darkness, smoke, ambush, social conflict resolution, persuading groups, being persuaded, interrogation, close combat, grappling, shoving, diving blow, aimed blows, blocking stance, range combat. A lot is covered in this book. It's going to be great to play through all of these different types of situations, both combat as well as the social interactions. Anti-tank guided missiles, armor and cover, covering all your damage here. Critical injuries, severe injuries, death, healing crits, and the different hit locations, head, torso, legs, arms, mental, and then you have stress, how you suffer stress and how that works, rally, further recovery, mental trauma, and then healing trauma. Because you got to remember, this is going to be an apocalyptic situation, so mental trauma will definitely have an impact. And of course, radiation, nuclear weapons in use, disease, vehicle combat, some illustrated examples here to help you understand that. Weapons mounts, vehicle night vision, stabilizers and fire control systems. Oh, that's cool that they actually have stave and fire control for your tanks, exposed passengers. Then we get to weapons, vehicles, and gear. And wow, what a cool picture that is. Trade, gear damage and repairs, scavenging for parts, which we saw before when we looked at those cards. You'd be doing a lot of scavenging because you're going to have to jury rig, as it says here, different things. Different types of weapons features, melee weapons. You have bottles, knives, clubs, spiked bats, bayonets, machetes, axes, bows and thrown, civilian firearms, pipe gun, shotgun. Wow, that's kind of cool. Zip gun. Then we have different military weapons that are available to you. Soviet military weapons. Good mix of weapons in the game. Just kind of flip through these. Then we have hand grenades, artillery, mortars, howitzers, heavy weapons, ammunition, mines, vehicles, all different types from civilian to military. Let's flip through the last few pages of this here. Radios, medical supplies, tools and spare parts, fuel, field gear, and then home base. This is one of the things that was cool. Was one of the add-ons for the Kickstarter. They allowed you to get the home base creation. So that way you can find a base, you can map it, and then the effects of a base. You can build your own base up and then defend it against all threats. Then we have travel, how that is handled in the game. The travel maps, which we've looked at. Tasks and shifts of the day. Marching, driving, forced march, keeping watch, scrounging, foraging, hunting, fishing, making your camp, cooking, resting, sleeping, water travel, city travel, and exploring. And then we have the index at the back of the player's book. Now we'll take a look at the referee manual. This is a 112-page full-color book. And we have the table of contents. It's a similar layout to what we saw with the player's manual. Starts off with the World of War, giving you the background and settings. And then Chapter 2 is your job as referee. Then the encounters, how those are handled. Factions and forces. Scenario sites. And then we have the appendix and solo rules at the back. Starts off with the World at War, giving you a background of the lead up to the war and what caused it, what happened. So that way you have more information for your backstory, for your story, for your scenarios. Then we get to Poland, the overview, order of battle in Poland for NATO and the Warsaw Pact. Southern Poland, different locations in both southern and northern Poland, as well as eastern Poland. And Western Poland. Then we also have Sweden, same type of layout, so it gives you a breakdown of what happened in Sweden on all the coasts, as well as the NATO Order of Battle and the Warsaw Pact Order of Battle for Sweden. Then we get to other countries, a little background on Germany, France, the UK, America, the rest of the world. Just like we saw in the player's manual, it gives you a breakdown of what's going on elsewhere, so that way you can easily have scenarios in those locations. Your job as referee, another beautifully bleak image here. Love their art. And it says here, you are the referee. Your role is to help the players envision the world of Twilight 2000 in all its gritty detail. You determine what challenges and hardships the player characters will face. You control the NPCs they will meet, and you are the final arbiter of the rules of the game. It's a tough job, but very rewarding. This chapter offers you advice on how to do it, and the rest of the book contains plenty of useful tools. And principles of the game. Nowhere is safe. Resources are scarce. Players lead the way. Rumors abound. Everything's personal. The end is never set. Death is a part of life. And the final one is hope never dies. Because without hope, what's the point? Death of a division, starting your game. And then it has how to get things going on. Planning your rumors. Moving out. Preparing your sessions. NPCs in combat. And then we get to encounters. And we have spotting, on-road and off-road, night and day, stationary encounters, typical NPCs, consequences for encounters, and then the list of the encounters. Remember, we looked at a couple of the cards of the 52 card encounter deck? Well, this is going to list them all out for you here in the book, same way. But the cards you can just randomly draw and have random encounters, or here you can choose them. And you also have a great reference for them here in the book. And we have radio chatter, rumors, mood elements. Here's your radio chatter and rumor table. Continues on, mood elements, woods, mood elements, fields, road. Depending on the location, you'll have different mood elements. Then we get to factions and forces, the different units in Poland. Soviet Reserve Group, Silesian Defense Force, Jagged Sword. Then we get to Sweden, 2nd Marine Division, 76 Guards. The Circuit, Shepherd's Flock, Sanctuary, October Guard. 11th Special Forces Group, DIA, CIA, GRU, KGB. Pretty much anybody with the acronym is going to be in here. Then we have the scenario sites. The prison. All the different locations in the prison, then the map. These are the specific map sites that we saw earlier when we looked at those. Chicken Man, Galina Belyev, America Town, so this is going to actually be a town here because you see police station, town hall, diner, the drive-in, Westmoreland House, the high school. When we looked at that map before, that could also be repurposed for any other location you want. The Children's Crusade. Because this is semi-gloss, it gets a little sticky and noisy as I'm switching pages, so I'm just going to thumb through them real quick. And then the scenario site generator. And the solo rules. This is what I was looking forward to checking out the most. You've got a set of solo rules that was part of the Kickstarter to get the capability for people to play solitaire. Hex crawling tools, getting started, your procedures, creating your encounters, the oracle, player characters, and the different types of encounters, and then how to manage your combat. Helpful or hazardous, NPC motives. There's your table for your NPC motivation. Settlements, settlement leaders, further elements, and then conversion rules here. This will allow you to convert any of the scenarios from the earlier versions into the 4th edition, which is pretty cool. So if you've had or gotten your hands on any of the older stuff, you can now convert it to 4th edition. Then we have designer's notes at the back and the index, and then we are at the back of the referee's manual. And that is a look at everything you get inside of Twilight 2000 4th edition. This is an RPG published by Free League Publishing, and it is available now. I got this box set as part of the Kickstarter, and I'm glad I did. This same box set is available now at your local game store, and you can get it online also. So definitely don't hesitate to pick this up. I'm glad I'm finally going to get a chance to play this RPG. I'd always wanted to back in the day, but everybody back then wanted to play D&D. They didn't care about playing an apocalyptic World War III RPG. But obviously I did, because as a wargamer, this is going to be very appealing. If you're a wargamer that's never played an RPG, but maybe you were curious about them, this is one to check out, because this is a great blend of RPG and wargaming style play. You've got, as you can see with these maps here, you've got your RPG backstory, you've got your NPCs, your encounter interactions, and then you have combat, which is going to be very much like a war game. Obviously, it's going to change things up a little bit differently and play slightly more like an RPG, but you're going to get that same type of war game feel to it. So I think everyone would enjoy that if you have an interest in RPGs as a wargamer. But a lot of stuff, and all high quality stuff. Free League does an amazing job with their products. Anything they put out, you know, is going to be top notch. And I love their art style, and just the quality of everything is fantastic. The map even has a little bit of a coating on it, so it looks like it'll be nice and protected from any Cheeto fingers or drinks or anything like that, although you shouldn't be leaving those at the table. Still, it's great to know that they'll be protected. But top-notch quality from Free League Publishing. And like I said, Kev also has a copy of this, and Nate now has a copy, so hopefully we'll see the Whiskey Charlie team out there in the barren wastelands, traipsing across the radiation zones and dealing with all sorts of encounters along the way, and smoking some bad guys also. But stay tuned for more information on that as we move along here through 2022. Well, I hope that helps you guys out if you've been curious about this one. You have any comments or questions, post them down below. Thanks for tuning in, guys. See you next time.